Hi, my name is Chris Kinsey, and I'm making this video in an effort to, at the very least, get my story out there. I I've been learning every day that just being able to open up and try to understand more about my personal life and my upbringing and just the psychology behind how everything around us affects us on a level that we never even knew about. It's just started to make me realize how much of my life that I am actually in control of. Whereas in the past, I thought that I was a product of like my past, my situation. Sometimes it's hard to like really think about and look back at my life and see all of the turmoil and chaos and sadness and it's just, it was so hard to go through that, but at the same time, I felt like I was always able to get past it and to push past it and to get better. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure this out. But I feel like I've just always had a drive to be better than my circumstances, to overcome things that some people think that they just can't. I've always wanted to make better for myself. I've always wanted to be able to prove that I, could make a better life for me and my family, because I feel like my parents and grandparents and everyone never had the opportunities that I have, and so I've lived my entire life basically trying to please other people. Ever since I was a kid, that's all I've ever tried to do. And it took a long time for me to realize that I've been doing this and to grasp this. I growing up, my parents were split up. My dad, my stepmom, mom, my stepdad. My stepmom was really on like an emotional roller coaster all the time. Some days she was happy, other days she'd be mad. And so for me, instead of confronting my parents and being in the middle and causing the trouble, I always did everything that I could to make sure that I would avoid any conflict. I I became a master of staying out of trouble, avoiding conflict, being the best kid there ever was. I I was known around the entire town as just being the best kid. Like, everybody just loved me because I was a really, really good kid, and I learned how to be the good kid, helping people where I could, staying out of trouble. I made a really good name for myself. I had no idea that this could be a bad thing, so to speak. Like, I lived my entire life trying to please other people, in essence, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. But over time, I had learned that it wasn't good for me, that all of my anxiety, a lot of my anxiety stemmed from working toward trying to please other people, and then when I didn't meet that expectation, it would make me upset, and and it would be chaos. And so it's taken, I'm just starting on this journey, and so I've made a lot of progress in that respect, but I've still got a lot to work on. And so what I started doing was sometimes listening to these videos, sometimes I would watch them, but on Spotify I found a podcast called The Mindset Mentor, and these videos are also on YouTube. I don't know if they're on Instagram, but they're on YouTube as well. But what I did was I was kind of just searching online for things in relation to personal development and trying to learn a little bit more about myself. And I found this podcast on Spotify, and it's from a guy named Rob Dial. And I started listening to these podcasts, and all of them are exactly what I've been needing to hear. It's all about self-development in every single aspect, whether it's in business, if you own a business, or if you want to start a business, or if you're just trying to find something more meaningful to do with your life. Things about your friendships and relationships and everything, just it hits on everything. And so I've started listening to these podcasts, and I'm sometimes I listen to them over and over again just because there might be something that I missed the first time. And so I've just been noticing, like, in my everyday life that I notice more things that I didn't before. So it was kind of strange because there's a song called "This Is Gospel" by Panic at the Disco, and I've known the song. I really like the song. I know the words to the song, and what happened is the song came on my Spotify playlist. "This Is Gospel" by Panic at the Disco. It came on, and I heard the first verse, and just out of nowhere, like, I'd heard the song hundreds of times before, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I listened to it the other night, and I just, like, something inside me just, like, burst. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Like, I understand. I can like empathize with these lyrics. And so I went to look up the meaning of the song, and it turns out that the song had, it was about one of his best friends, who is his drummer, struggling with addiction, and he's trying to get through it, and Brendan just doesn't know how to help the guy, and it's just a struggle because he doesn't know if he's going to be able to keep the band together. And so the first verse of the song is, "This is gospel for the fallen ones, locked away in permanent slumber, assembling their philosophies from pieces of broken memories." And that's exactly what we do on a daily basis. People who are depressed, and they're just not doing well, and they don't know what to do, and they just feel stuck and helpless. Like looking at these lyrics and just thinking like you feel like you're a product of your own circumstances, and you feel like you can't change anything. Well, that's not true, because in your subconscious mind, while listening to this podcast, I've become more in tune with, like, listening for, like, the conscious versus subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind, it doesn't know whether it's, like, true or false. It like stores this information and doesn't take into consideration whether or not the information is true or false. And so essentially you can manipulate your mind into thinking or believing anything you want to, whether it's good or bad. So if you're going to tell yourself something every day, you might as well, remind yourself of, like, I'm happy, I'm resilient, I'm hardworking, I want the best for myself, and you just affirm that by just repeating that over and over to yourself, and it's going to become your reality. And so while listening to these lyrics, locked away in a permanent slumber, assembling their philosophies. So it's like you take what you've learned in your mind and all of your experiences, and and they're just horrible, and you're depressed and you don't know what to do and you don't feel like you can get any better. And so most people, they don't ever see a way out. And it's like you want to shake the person and be like, you can get through this, you can be better. You just have to turn that around and make it something positive and meaningful. It's mind blowing what you can do, with your mind, and how, just by thinking certain thoughts, it could make you feel good or make you feel ill. It's incredible. And so when I hear this song, it's like assembling their philosophies from pieces of broken memories. Broken memories. It's like whenever you remember something, you, like, from 5 years ago, you probably aren't going to remember it exactly the way that it happened. So whenever you're recalling something and you're telling somebody else about it, about an event that happened 5 years ago, chances are it's not exactly the way that it happened 5 years ago. There's probably change, or you've been, over the last 5 years, it's your mind has altered it in some way, and so you have the ability to change your life anytime. It doesn't matter, like, you have so much control over everything in your life, and you just have no idea. I was listening to another podcast by Rob Dial, and he had a guest speaker who was a psychotherapist, and it by the end of the podcast, I was basically kind of like in tears, because it just shed light on so many different aspects of my life, and what I've gone through, and how I deal with things emotionally. It gives insight on what I might be able to do differently, in order to heal from those experiences. And ever since listening to this podcast, it's just made me feel so much better. I've been able to get up in the mornings, and while I'm not perfect, and I still, I still might make mistakes, and like, I've created a journal and started writing in it every day, and I'm trying to develop better habits, that I can do every day. And sometimes I don't do them, and it's like, well, crap, I didn't do it today. But you don't just forget about them. You get up, and you're like, well, I may have failed today, but there's tomorrow. Why? Because every day is different. It's a different day. It's a new day. There's no reason why you should feel like just because you failed once, that you're never going to be able to succeed at something. I'm still learning this and figuring this out, and it's only been a week and a half since I started listening to this, well, maybe 2 weeks since I started listening to this podcast, and it's changed my mind already, like, so much, just working on my mind and making me think about things and feel things that I had never thought about or felt before. And I cannot wait to hear what else is on this podcast, and what else that I can get into to try and like figure my mind out, and figure out what works, and figure out what it is that I'm still struggling with, that I need to figure out. If I've had past traumas growing up, that I know I haven't dealt with. I may feel fine, but I've got to figure out how to deal with those, whether it means going to see a counselor and, have them help me with what it is that I experienced as a child, in order to kind of break free from that and, focus on the future. I think me and I'm sure a lot of other people, we focus so much on the past and about what happened in the past, and you think that your future is, based on the past, and you can't change yourself because of some horrible thing that happened in the past, and that's just simply not true. Like, just work on yourself, make a goal, commit to it, and just see yourself through it. You can do it. I'm doing the same thing, and it's just, it blows me away at how much control I have over my thoughts. One of the things I heard on this Mindset Mentor podcast is you're gonna mess up. Like, let's say you really want to, change your thought process and just be more positive. Like, those negative thoughts, like when somebody cuts you off and you get mad or something and cuss or whatever, like, you can immediately, like, become self-aware and be like, I didn't mean that. I didn't actually mean that. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be, or that's not what I want to represent. And you take it back. You're like, say it out loud. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. That person probably has somewhere to be. They're probably, they're late. They have to get something. You just never know. And so that's something else that I found, is that I've heard it a million times, but never really let it sink in. It's like, you never really know what someone else is going through or dealing with. You just don't. Like, we hear that all the time, that, you don't know what that person's going through. Why are you judging them? What do you say? Why? Like, you just don't know. So why not just put your best foot forward? Just focus on the positive. What do you have to gain from focusing on the negativity? Right? Nothing. And so if you take the time, just work on yourself, to become a more positive person, to have a better outlook on things, to go out of your way to help somebody, that you wouldn't have before. Just, you've no idea how much better it'll make you feel. And don't stop. Like, just always know that you have to work on yourself. We're not perfect. We will never be perfect. All we can do is hope that we're, better tomorrow than we were yesterday. And wake up every day with the intention of doing something good. Being something positive for people. There's so much negativity out there that it's disgusting. Like, whether it's the news or just people complaining about things that are irrelevant. Like, if it's, just try and change your mindset. Like, when you're thinking of something negative, turn it around and be like, it could be worse. Like, I may not have every single thing that I want, but I have what I need. And anything that I don't have, I just have to figure out how to get it myself, and I have to work on that. Anything is possible. I sat the last few days, I really was just feeling really like I had to get this out of me. And I want to better my life. I want to be better, mentally. I want to feel better. I want to be better physically, whether that's going to the gym or running. I love running. Finding something that you enjoy and doing that. Like, if you have a job that you hate, and you don't want to be there anymore, that, work on that. It's not something that has to change overnight. You don't have to go and, like, try and get a job right now. But come up with a plan, figure it out. You're like, hey, I don't want to work here anymore. I'm sure there are plenty of other places that would hire me with my experience. And so what do? You just get like whatever you need to do in order to improve yourself, so that you can be where you want to be. Another aspect of this whole thing for myself, was just living in fear. Um, for my entire life, I was so scared and so worried about what everybody else was gonna think of me. What do these people think of me? Are they gonna hate me for saying this? Are they gonna, say something negative about me because I did this or acted this way? Or I was so worried about what other people thought, because that's how I grew up, being so focused on pleasing people and making sure that I was doing what they wanted me to do, and that's all I ever knew. It wasn't until I sat down at an Applebee's with my aunt, and I was talking to her about, personal issues and and my attitude, and she was like, I I had opened up to her about, relationship stuff, and just feeling like every time that I started talking to someone, I would just self-sabotage. Like I would talk negatively about, I, I would just self-sabotage, and I would always basically find a way to screw it up. And a lot of the times, it's crazy, but it's like I was finding people that were emotionally unavailable to me, and it's almost like it was intentional. And so you would think, like, why would you do that? Why would you look for somebody that isn't emotionally available? And I was aware of that. I could voice that I could only ever find somebody that was emotionally unavailable, and that I was attracted to that, and I really wanted that person. But it wasn't until I sat down with my aunt and talked to her about that, and since she's a therapist, and she understood me and what I went through growing up, she could tell me that, hey, Chris, this happens because that's what you experienced as a child. You had parents who were emotionally unavailable. You had, you know, maybe a mother that didn't seem like she really cared that much, and you had a father who was just out working 24/7. And every time that he made a promise to be there, like whether it was to go out fishing or to take us to a movie or to, I don't know, take us to get ice cream or to go out to eat or something, he would make those promises. And as a kid, you parents, you make you a promise. It's like, oh yay, I'm excited to go do this. Well, most of the time he would never be able to follow through because he always had to work. And eventually it got to the point, where I got to be older, and it was like I can't really rely on those promises. Like I just can't. And so then that bled over into other aspects of my life, where for whatever reason, since I had that childhood, like I sought out people that, like significant otherwise, that were not emotionally available. Like they couldn't be there for me. And so it's interesting how instead of seeking the opposite, like finding somebody that would be emotionally available to me, in order, to date that person. Like I was seeking the person that couldn't be emotionally available, which is crazy. You would think it would be the opposite. But there's just some things like that. Like that's just one aspect of my life that I'm figuring out and I'm working on. And by listening to this podcast every day and just reassuring myself that everything is going to be okay, and just being positive, setting goals, and and just working toward them every day, keeping the negative thoughts out of my head, and just working my butt off to get there. Like I know it's going to be a process, and I know it's going to take time, but I know that I'll get there. And for anybody that's struggling through something, it's like you have the ability to do anything that you set your mind to. And you just have to create a plan and, figure out how to do it. Whether you have to, talk to somebody else that knows more about the situation, in order to get a better insight or to get help. You don't have to do it alone. I guess so many people are so scared to ask for help that they just sit and revel in those emotions, and then they just stuff them down, and they never get dealt with. And that's an issue. And I know there's plenty that I'm still having to work on and figure out, but I'm already just feeling so good, because I've been willing to take this step and work on myself. It may not be easy, and I know that there's plenty in there that once I get into it, I may be a mess, but I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna be better because of it. Nobody's perfect. Nobody should ever act like they're perfect. Nobody should expect perfection if it doesn't exist. So you go out there, focus on you, focus on what you need, and just try and be better than you were yesterday. That's all you can hope for, because there's 365 days in a year. Every single day you're 1% better, and by the end of the year, you could be a completely different person. You could be so much happier than you ever thought you could be. There's just no limitation on it. And I hope that I hope that I can, if anything, if you can relate, if there's anything that I can say or do to help, I would love that. I think this is something that I loved. This is the type of thing that I loved growing up, being able to talk to people and talk with them about their problems and try and give feedback and things like that. But over time, I don't know if because people weren't listening, that I just felt like I needed to stop doing it, or if I don't know, but I just know this is something that I really enjoy, and if I could ever give anybody any feedback or just talk, I would love that. If you see this, thanks so much for listening. I'm just beginning this journey, and I'm going to post as much as I possibly can along the way, just to kind of monitor my progress, and if this helps anybody in any way, then that's the end goal. We all should be here to help one another. We all should be there for one another. That's why we're here. We're not here just for ourselves. We're here to make an impact. I hope everybody has a great day, and thank you.